My sister betrayed me with my husband for months, but when my parents admitted they knew, I organized her baby shower and exposed them all with evidence on the big screen. I'm 30 years old, I work in digital marketing, and what I'm about to tell you changed my life in a way that I still have trouble processing. Basically, I discovered that my older sister was sleeping with my husband for months, and my own parents knew about it and hid it from me. Yes, you read that right. My entire family betrayed me. And when I say what I did afterwards was nuclear, I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. I guess I should start from the beginning, so you understand my family's dynamic. I grew up in Chicago with my parents and my sister Adrienne, who's 2 years older than me. For as long as I can remember, Adrienne was the family's golden child, the one who could do whatever she wanted without consequences. She was pretty, outgoing, always the center of attention at any family gathering. I was the quiet younger sister, the responsible one, the one who got good grades and never caused trouble. My parents always had completely different standards for the two of us. Adrienne could come home at 3 in the morning at 16 and barely get scolded, while I had to be home by 10. Adrienne failed 2 classes in college, and my parents paid for private tutoring and bought her a new car to cheer her up. I graduated with honors and got a congratulations card. You know what I mean? That's how it always was. I met Caleb when I was 23, at a work conference in Denver. He was a software developer, smart, funny, like the perfect man according to me. We got married 2 years later in a small but nice wedding. Adrienne was my maid of honor, obviously, because despite everything, I always thought we were close. She was already married to Lucas by then, a decent guy who worked in finance. It seemed like we had both found our stability, our normal adult life. How naive I was, honestly. The first years of marriage were good. Caleb and I bought a house in a quiet suburb, adopted a cat, had dinner parties with friends on weekends. My career was going, well, so was his. We saw my family regularly, like once or twice a month for dinners or birthdays. Adrienne and Lucas would come too, and we all acted like the perfect family. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. Adrienne always found excuses to sit next to Caleb at dinners, always touched his arm when she laughed at his jokes, always asked him for help with tech stuff, even though Lucas literally worked with computers. But I was stupid. I trusted her, him, everyone. Things started getting weird like a year and a half ago. Caleb started working late more frequently, going out for beers with coworkers I never met, checking his phone obsessively and putting it face down every time he set it somewhere. Classic signs of infidelity, I know. But I was still in denial. I thought, no, Caleb wouldn't do that. I know him. When I'd ask if everything was okay, he'd tell me he was stressed about work, that they had a big project, that I was imagining things, and I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Adrienne was also acting strange. She'd cancel plans with me last minute, avoid my calls, and when we did talk, she was super distant. I thought maybe she was having problems with Lucas, but every time I asked, she'd tell me everything was perfect. My parents were also being weird, especially my mom. She'd call me less, seem nervous when we talked, change the subject quickly if I mentioned Adrienne or Caleb. The truth is, my whole family was acting like they knew something I didn't, and turns out that's exactly how it was. The moment everything exploded was like 6 months ago. I went to my parents' house on a Wednesday afternoon because my mom had asked me to bring her some things she'd bought online and had shipped to my address because she wouldn't be home to receive them. I arrived and there was nobody there. Or so I thought. I went in with my key, left the boxes in the entrance, and heard voices coming from the kitchen. My parents were there, talking to someone on speakerphone. I was about to announce myself when I heard Adrienne's name, and I froze. My mom was saying something like, "We can't tell Maya. It would destroy her." And my dad responded, "Adrienne promised she was going to end things with Caleb soon. She just needs time to sort out her situation." And that's when I felt like the floor was opening up beneath me. My mom said, "I just don't understand how she got into this. Lucas is a good man, and Caleb is married to her sister. For God's sake. But you know how Adrienne is. She always gets what she wants." My dad sighed and said something like, "At least Caleb said he's considering leaving Maya, so Adrienne and he can be together officially." I stood there in the hallway, unable to move. Literally felt like I was going to throw up. My sister, my husband, my parents knew. Everyone knew except me. It was like being in a horror movie. but worse because it was my real life. I don't remember how long I stood there listening. Maybe it was minutes, maybe seconds. But eventually, I left the house quietly, got in my car, and drove around aimlessly for like an hour while trying to process what I had just heard. When I got home, Caleb still wasn't there. I went straight to his office and checked his laptop, his iPad, everything. I had all the passwords because we'd never had secrets, or so I thought. I can't explain to you what it feels like to find months and months of messages between your husband and your sister. Messages saying I love you to each other, making plans to see each other, talking about me like I was an annoying obstacle in their way. There were photos. And when I say photos, I mean photos. The kind you don't even want to imagine. I found emails where Caleb told Adrienne he was waiting for the right moment to ask me for a divorce, that he just needed his year-end bonus to come through first, so he'd have enough money for the settlement. I spent that entire night downloading evidence, screenshots, copies of Tumben, emails, videos, everything. I saved it all on 3 different USB drives, and in the cloud, I didn't cry that night. I was like numb, functioning on autopilot. Caleb got home around 11 at night saying he'd been in a meeting, and I just nodded and told him I was tired and going to sleep. I lay down next to him that night, knowing everything, and it was the most surreal thing in my life. The following days were the hardest. I had to act normal while deciding what to do. I couldn't just confront them because I knew they'd deny everything, manipulate me, make me feel crazy. My family was expert at gaslighting. They'd been doing it to me for years. I needed a plan, something they couldn't deny, something that would expose them all for what they really were. The perfect opportunity came like 2 weeks later. My mom called me all excited saying that Adrienne was pregnant and wanted me to help plan her baby shower. She said, "It would be so special if it came from you. Maya, you're so good at organizing events, and Adrienne really wants it to be something intimate and nice." The audacity. Seriously. I stayed silent, processing what she was asking me, and something inside me just clicked. I told her yes, that I'd love to organize my sister's baby shower, that it would be an honor. I spent the next 6 weeks planning the most elaborate baby shower you can imagine. I hired a nice venue, arranged catering, decorations in pastel tones, games, everything. My mom was delighted with how involved I was, kept telling me how proud she was of me for being such a good sister. Adrienne barely talked to me during the planning, but accepted all my suggestions. Caleb didn't know anything about the event because I told him it was ladies only, and to keep it secret, so as not to ruin the surprise. The centerpiece of my plan was a PowerPoint presentation I prepared with all the evidence I had collected. Photos of Caleb and Adrienne together in hotels, screenshots of their most incriminating messages, emails where they planned their future together, everything organized chronologically with dates and locations. I titled it, "Celebrating New Beginnings," with a pretty cursive font and everything. I hired my cousin Ivy, who's like 22 and is an Instagram influencer, to document the event with her professional recording equipment. I told her I was going to do an emotional surprise presentation for Adrienne and that I wanted her to capture everything live. Ivy thought it was the sweetest idea in the world and agreed happily, even said she'd live stream it on her account so all our relatives who couldn't attend could watch in real time. The day of the baby shower arrived and everything was perfect. The place was beautiful. There were like 40 guests, including all of Adrienne's friends, relatives, work acquaintances. My mom was radiant. Adrienne was radiant in her light blue maternity dress, everyone taking photos and eating snacks. I waited until after the games and food. When everyone was relaxed and happy, I stood up front with a champagne glass in my hand and said, "I'd like to make a special toast for my older sister." Everyone applauded and got quiet to listen. My cousin Ivy already had her camera ready and her live stream active. I said something like, "Adrienne has always been special to our family. She's always known how to get exactly what she wants, regardless of the consequences. And today I want to celebrate that with a little presentation I prepared." My mom looked excited. Adrienne was smiling uncomfortably but pleased. I connected my laptop to the projector, and the presentation started. The first 3 slides were cute photos of Adrienne and me as kids, photos from her wedding to Lucas. Normal stuff. Everyone was going, "Aw," and smiling. Then came the 4th slide. It was a photo of Caleb and Adrienne kissing in a hotel parking lot, date and location included. The silence that followed was deafening. Adrienne turned pale. My mom dropped her glass. My dad stood up from his chair. I kept advancing slides, text messages, emails, more photos. A screenshot where Caleb told Adrienne he was going to leave me as soon as he sorted out the finances. Another where Adrienne told Caleb that my parents were on their side and they could count on their support when they made their relationship public. Nobody moved. Ivy kept live streaming, completely shocked but not lowering the camera. Some guests started crying. Others covered their mouths. Lucas, who had arrived late to the event, was standing at the entrance watching everything with an expression of absolute horror. I let the presentation continue until the last slide, which simply said, "Congratulations on your new beginning, Adrienne. I hope it was worth destroying 2 marriages and an entire family." Adrienne finally reacted and ran toward the projector trying to turn it off, but it was too late. The damage was done. Lucas grabbed her by the arm and yelled at her, "Is it true? Is all this true?" And she just cried, saying she could explain. My mom yelled at me, "How could you do this? Ruin your sister's day?" And I just laughed, because the audacity was incredible. I said, "How could I? Seriously, Mom, you knew all along and didn't tell me anything? And I'm the bad guy here?" The place became total chaos. Lucas took Adrienne out of the hall, practically dragging her. She was screaming and crying. Adrienne's friends looked at us with a mixture of shock and, I'm not gonna lie, some seemed to be enjoying the drama. Paige, one of Adrienne's closest friends, approached me and said, "I need to talk to you later. I think there are more things you should know." My dad tried to turn off the projector, but Ivy had already captured everything, and the live stream had reached like 200 people in real time, including practically our entire extended family. I left the place without saying anything else. I drove home, packed all my essential things in 2 suitcases, and went to a hotel. I blocked Caleb, Adrienne, and my parents from everything. Phone, social media, email, everything. I didn't want to hear their excuses, their lies, their attempts at manipulation. I'd heard enough already. The following days were a whirlwind of shit that kept coming to light. Lucas effectively kicked Adrienne out of the house that same night and told her he never wanted to see her again. He hired a divorce lawyer the next day and requested a temporary restraining order. Paige contacted me and told me she also had suspicions that her husband Austin had been acting weird. And after seeing my presentation, she confronted Austin, who eventually admitted he'd also had an affair with Adrienne. Yes, my sister was sleeping with her best friend's husband too. Not only that, it turned out the baby Adrienne was expecting, the one that was supposedly Lucas's, was actually Austin's. A paternity test later confirmed it. The drama got even worse when Caleb, upon finding out the baby wasn't Lucas's and that Adrienne had been with multiple men simultaneously, decided he didn't want anything to do with her anymore. He literally sent her a message saying he'd been an idiot, that she was clearly a compulsive liar, and that he didn't want to be part of that mess. Adrienne ended up completely alone, living with my parents, pregnant with Austin's baby, divorcing Lucas, and abandoned by Caleb. My parents tried to contact me like 50 times to ask me to forgive, to go to family therapy, that this was destroying the family. I responded only once, telling them that they destroyed the family the moment they decided to protect Adrienne instead of telling me the truth, and that I didn't want to have contact with them again. My dad sent me a long email explaining they only wanted to protect me from the pain, that they thought Adrienne was going to end the affair on her own, that they didn't know what to do. I didn't respond. The divorce from Caleb was surprisingly quick and clean. He didn't even fight for anything. I think he was too embarrassed after basically the whole town found out what he did thanks to Ivy's viral live stream. We signed the papers like 3 months after the baby shower explosion. The house sold. We split everything 50-50. And that was it. I never spoke to him again after the final signing. Adrienne had her baby like 2 months ago, a girl. Austin wants to be involved as a father, but Paige obviously left him. So it's a complete mess of shared custody and legal arrangements. Lucas is already dating someone new from what I heard, a woman from his work who seems normal and stable. Caleb is also supposedly dating someone. I don't care enough to confirm. Adrienne still lives with my parents, who are now the primary caregivers of the baby, while she tries to rebuild some kind of life. She lost almost all her friendships after the scandal. Her job let her go because the environment became too uncomfortable, and she's basically starting from zero at 32 as a single mom living with her parents. I'm doing okay, I guess. I moved to a small but nice apartment downtown, changed jobs to a company where nobody knows my story, and I'm in therapy processing everything. I've been going out with new friends, taking kickboxing classes, traveling when I can. My life is completely different from what it was a year ago, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's lighter, more honest, without all that toxicity disguised as family love. Do I regret what I did at the baby shower? No. Honestly, I don't. People have told me I was cruel, that I could have handled things privately, that publicly humiliating Adrienne was going too far. But honestly, after months of lies, of my entire family conspiring to keep me in the dark, of them literally planning to dismantle my marriage without giving me any choice in the matter, I felt they deserved exactly what they got. They chose public humiliation the moment they decided to play with my life, like I was a secondary character in their twisted drama. Last week, my cousin Ivy sent me a message saying the baby shower video already has like 2 million views on TikTok because someone uploaded it again with subtitles, and there are people doing analysis of the drama like we're a reality show. It's surreal. But there's also something satisfying about knowing their betrayal is documented forever, that they can't rewrite the story or make me look like the crazy one. The evidence is there, permanent, and everyone knows exactly who they are. Sometimes I feel guilty about the baby, about exposing everything that way, when there's an innocent girl involved now. But then I remember I didn't cause any of these problems. I only uncovered the lie everyone was happy to maintain while it destroyed me inside. That girl deserves to grow up in an environment of honesty, not in one where the adults around her think it's okay to betray and lie while everyone pretends nothing's happening. My therapist says I'm still processing the trauma of the multiple betrayal, that it's normal to feel the whole range of emotions from rage to relief and everything in between. She says I did what I felt necessary to reclaim my agency in a situation where everyone had taken it from me. I don't know if that makes me a good or bad person. Honestly, I don't care so much about labels anymore. I survived something that could have easily destroyed me, and I came out the other side, stronger and more aware of my own worth. The last time I knew anything about Adrienne was through a mutual acquaintance, who told me Adrienne had asked about me, that she supposedly wanted to apologize and try to rebuild our relationship. I told that acquaintance to tell Adrienne there was nothing to rebuild, that she burned that bridge to the foundations, and I have no interest in being part of her life in any way. Maybe it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Some betrayals simply don't have a way back, and this is definitely one of them. My life now is mine, completely mine, without having to navigate the expectations of a dysfunctional family that clearly never valued me the way I deserved. And honestly, that's enough for now.